All right, let's use the Mank Scourge of War editor to make a new scenario for Scourge of War. First, I'll load in the specific game that I'm creating this scenario for. This works for Gettysburg and for Waterloo. There's not too much customization really needed other than just pointing it to which files we want to use as our baseline. And that'll just be used for like field validation for the most part. The order of battle generation mostly operates on the concept of these templates, which are pretty flexible and user definable, but let you make valid units rather quickly that have some variations. We see there's some unique name, but at the same time, valid class, valid formation, and reasonable but random stats. Doing manual customization of existing units is pretty easy. For fields that pull IDs from other files, drop-downs allow you to pick from the loaded values. In addition to adding the templates one by one, we can also generate an entire subtree at one go. Using this dialog, we can create armies of any size, brigades, regiments, and this basically turns the template system up to 11. Then in this confirmation screen, we can scroll through, see what was selected, and that'll place it in our order of battle that we're generating at the top. We can swap the template filter over to the southern units, and we'll do the same thing. All right, so there's two armies that are relatively close in size. Next step would be to move to the map and place these units. Any map works as long as we have the ini file, so we can use modded maps as well. Lets you change the opacity, and also neat is being able to swap to the grayscale version of the map, which has a little bit higher detail when it comes to terrain formations. Again, main interaction is dragging and dropping. We can right-click rotate to move our guys around, and then based upon the formation files that are loaded from the game, we can put them into any formation that's valid for that level. So corps commanders don't get too many options, but as we go down to division level, we see that there are all of the expected options that you would want. We can put these guys into a reserve column. Now let's zoom out, and we'll do the same for the Confederate side. There's a couple other interaction modes that we have. We can select everybody. We can right-click rotate the entire selected formation and pivot around themselves. And then again, just to highlight, for every level, the available formations are all there. So we can put these guys in a column. We can even change the formation of the individual units here. All right, and once we're happy with the units placement and the units in our order of battle, we can then move on to the scenario tab. Here we can see there's an objective section here. We go back to map. We can place objectives, move them around, and in the scenario tab, we can make modifications, change them from major to minor, change the rewards for each. Let's add a scenario name. We can modify the start time, change whether this is a multiplayer or single player game. And for convenience, we also have the scenario intro with like a inbuilt editor here that tries to replicate all the features that you have available in game in terms of what's rendered to the player before they start the match. Even things like being able to swap font colors and alignment options to move stuff left and right. But the initial generation just gives a high-level overview of the forces involved, and this is a good place to start for scenario creators. They can add their own flair on top. Once we have all this, saving the scenario creates a new folder with basically the structure of a normal mod. As we're opening this up, because you'll notice that we have layout and order of battle folders defined, and this is because we didn't use any existing orders of battle entries. All these are new IDs, new units that aren't in the game by default. So we have to create strings and map the IDs to strings using these language files. So this comes from the fields that we defined in the details view. And so they have pretty sane defaults when it comes to the templates, but you can, again, like modify those and it will automatically generate your language files for you. Same thing for order of battle, because this is a new order of battle and we're not reusing an existing one. We have to, our mod would have to include this new order of battle. All right, so we can just copy this whole folder It's easy enough to just place it in your mods folder. And when we load in the game, this will be available and we'll be able to see what this looks like. Alright, and then once in game, we can go to the modifications screen to turn this on. Then, going to user scenarios, we can find our core battle scenario selected. We can see the scenario details renders relatively close to what's shown in the editor. And we can also see that the strings associated with those IDs come through correctly in the game now. We can start this up and verify that the formations and stuff all look as we expect. And we'd be ready to go. Alright, there's our formation, there's our objective. And you can see all our units arrayed out. You can see that ordnance wagons are being placed correctly, which is nice. Pretty much it. Alright, I wanted to show real quick how the template system worked. We can go into the templates here and we can see some of the files that are available. The pools and units sections, the user can go in and edit those themselves. These pools are used within the templates as name lists to choose from, but we could also create names for states. So we use this to construct the northern and southern regimental names, which are usually based around states. The really cool part comes down to unit templates themselves. So let's take a look at British templates for Waterloo. These are very similar to Order of Battle entries. All the columns are the same as from Order of Battle. There's actually a button in the editor that just lets you copy directly into a user template file. So you could just copy and paste a unit over and over again easily that way. The neat part is we have this modifier syntax with a little mini tag language inside of it that lets us replace these entries. So for the regimental choices, we have these sequential ordinal creations. So first, second, third regiment will be created that way. This also lets you do things if you wanted to, like choose specific classes or choose specific flags from a list. You know, we could create a pool file of the various flags and use that to create variation between regiments and commanders that way. In addition, at the end here, we can see the range directive is being used to give values for skills. So maneuver skills for the level 6 units, and then command skills for our commanders. We're also using it to create regiments of varied size for squadrons as well. So creating additional templates here lets you have more options as you're building out your units. Template files for specific eras and campaigns. You know, you might have template file for Napoleonic Spain, template files for East versus West, Civil War, campaign theaters. There's a lot of different options here.